Greetings, dear ones. I am EM. I join you this day to bring a message of hope to help you understand what is taking place in your own physical body, because changes are at hand. You are moving, literally elevating yourself, not only vibrationally, but physically as well. You are moving to a point where you can start to carry more light in your body. These are critical times upon Earth, dear ones. You have placed yourselves here at this time because you carry something very important for these energies you are moving through. You carry a key element, and our part of all that is these changes that are taking place on Earth right now. Let us address what is going on in the physical body. If you look to your news and the events that are taking place globally on your Earth, you will see that there is a massive balancing of masculine and feminine. This is the reason that I, as a balanced entity, can share with you this message of hope and joy. Yes, truly it is for you. As you lift the veil, you are beginning to see beyond the limitations of the illusions of planet Earth and of a time frame in humanity. You are starting to understand more about it as you go forward and become more familiar with the fifth dimensional reality and the new attributes that come with that. The scientist of the heart also spoke about how the physical body is changing, and I wish to continue that process by telling you a little bit about what is possible. Dear ones, you have been here before. You knew you were coming to Earth and you planted seeds along the way. Now, what does it take to nurture those seeds? Sometimes it is simply an activation, and other times it is something that happens that reminds you who you truly are. You may be driving down the highway and will see a sign on the side of the road that reminds you of something because of how the words are used together, or perhaps some symbol that triggered a deep memory. Those are exactly the types of things you placed in your own path before you arrived here. Those are the seeds planted deeply within your spirit that can help with activation. Your job is to look for those synchronicities, to discover what we call the cosmic winks that verify your true self. It may be words you read or a tone you hear that suddenly strikes your heart as truth. We ask that when this happens, close the book for just a moment and really breathe that into your being. Allow the energy to really settle into who you are and emanate from you. Why? Because it opens your metamorphic shell and allows in more light than you probably ever thought possible. You are all moving into light body if you so choose. That is the process that is slowly taking place on Earth, and there are many aspects of this that have opened. Dear ones, the synchronicities are all around if you start looking. Now, there is an interesting part about this. Once you find one of these cosmic winks and it shows up in your life, you are more likely to look in another place and see another one. It is as if you are attuning yourself to see these things that you have planted and recognize the triggers, which will allow you to step into the next level of your own energy and light. These are magical and literally everywhere on planet Earth. So, watch for these cosmic winks and place them in yourself. Know that you can also place them for the people around you, although you will not necessarily know what may trigger them, but can encourage them to find these for themselves. You know, dear ones, it was not long ago that many of you started noticing master numbers. Sometimes you saw 10, 10, 10, or 11, 11, or maybe you looked at the clock and saw 9, 11, or 9, 9, 9. Those are triggers. Now, what does that mean? Well, perhaps it was always there, but you simply didn't notice it before. If you consider the way time is kept, especially in the United States, those numbers appear on your clock twice a day, so it's not necessarily synchronistic. However, consider what makes you look at the clock exactly at that precise moment. It is your spirit attuning to the synchronicities around you. That is living a synchronistic lifestyle. You are learning to live in an entirely different way, which is possible for each one of you because you are in the light. You have learned how to do this repeatedly. Dear ones, we tell you that the magic is coming and you will learn to be magical with these cosmic winks. You will learn how to interpret spirit and trust your channel in a different way. Yes, some of these validations will be everywhere for you to see. Over the next several of months, you see a lot of these synchronicities and cosmic winks. Know that they are here to reaffirm that you are on the right path. And if you are not seeing them, keep your eyes open and watch. The moment you see the first one, you have a choice whether or not to doubt it. You can say, "Oh, this is just my imagination. I'm making something up," again. Or you can take it as a tap from spirit on the other side of the veil, a reminder for you to pay attention, because that is how we talk to you, dear ones. We do not always tell you in so many words exactly what is coming next. Many times, we simply plant the seeds of an idea with you, and we ask you to let it grow. Then we watch as you nurture it, as you evolve it into something very magical, far beyond what you could have done any other way. The light seeds are with you now, and your spirit has many of these that you are remembering. From a physical level, as the scientist of the heart has said, there is much happening on planet Earth right now, with a tremendous amount of clearing of the physical levels. You are almost to the other side of that, and you will see much more of this process continue. But let us explain one piece of this that might be helpful to know as you step forward, especially as you start looking for these synchronicities and these cosmic winks in your life. Each part of your physical body has a vibration. You can see that very clearly if you look at your hands. The front of your finger has a different vibration than the fingernail, which is much denser. Yes, the vibration is much higher on your nail than it is on the front of your finger. Yet your whole hand has a collective vibration. In truth, your entire body has a collective vibration that we call your signature vibration. Your signature vibration can be triggered in many ways. It can be triggered by seeing or hearing something. It can often be triggered by reading or experiencing something that reminds you of a time when you had that signature vibration flowing freely from every part of your being. That takes you home again into vibrant health. That is possible now more than ever before. It is part of what we will be doing with the signature seed, the spirit seed vibrations and activations. All of you can benefit from this in different ways, because now your body is ready to receive these again. We encourage you to develop the habit of seeking and reaching for these synchronicities, writing them down or grounding them in some way. Even as you tell your friends about something that happened today, you begin a synchronistic lifestyle that allows you to find the path of least resistance through almost any difficulty that you can imagine. These are times of great change on your planet, and you are absolutely a part of this. So, with this knowing, find your own energy. Discover the songs that resonate with you, those with an energy tone that really means something to you. Read the things that bring your heart to the surface, and allow yourself to see the synchronicities in the road signs as you drive down the highway. When you feel something triggered, close the book for a moment, and fully digest the meaning of the words. Develop a habit of looking for synchronicities, for we will speak to each one of you through these moments. Many of these seeds you have planted yourself. Before you ever came into this body, you placed crystals on your path to find at the perfect time of your evolution. The other crystals simply allow us to communicate with you and to tell you the easiest path. We share with you your highest vibration to help bring you back into joy whenever possible through the process of what you are doing. You have reached a new level on planet Earth, dear ones, and you are grounding in a new way. These are magical times for each one of you, and we salute you. Yes, you are doing very well. However, we know that there is much difficulty and strife at this time. There is a tremendous wave of separation on your planet now. Everyone seems to be taking care of only themselves and not worrying about the unity consciousness at all. That will change and shift, for you are literally at the level of opening up these doors and possibilities. But it is going to take every single one of you to accomplish this. That is why we share with you what this information and what you are starting to go through. It can influence your body, emotions, and your own energies. It also impacts the way you work with life and experience joy, which is the piece that we want to see return to each one of you. Yes, that light in your eyes when you get excited. We can show that to you through the cosmic winks which are now all around you. All you need to do, dear ones, is keep your eyes open. We will be speaking to you through these cosmic winks, so recognize and celebrate that. You will hear much from the other side of the veil as time goes forward, for it is actually a thinning of the veil that you are experiencing. You have earned it, dear ones. You have reached a level where you can start listening in a new way. It is with the greatest of honor that I share this with you. Celebrate humanity reaching these beautiful levels of light and being able to change all the history that you have had on the planet. You now have the opportunity to step into a more empowered society for each and every one of you. I have come to you today to share another episode of the young boy growing up in the days of Lemuria. There are so many similarities to what is happening now on Earth. So I will step aside and bring in what we call the collective to take you on a journey of time and space, back to the days of Mu. Let us take you, dear ones, to the new energies that Amor is experiencing. Amor is starting to work in his own energy and starting to love what he does. Amor is a healer. He is becoming very much aware that he is a healer, understanding that people heal in different ways. Amor is a healer who heals with his words. He has an incredible and profound ability to reflect other people in very unique ways. He works at the Temple of Rejuvenation, in one of the many that existed in the days of Mu. Lemuria is a very large place, and although the populations are spread out to many different areas, he focused in one of the most populated areas at a very busy time. Roughly every 3 years or so, people would come to these rejuvenation temples, which is part of what allowed people to live up to 300 years. Lemurians had a different perspective on life, a different sense of urgency about every second of every day. You would think because they lived to be 300 years old, they would have less respect for life. But that was not the case. Every day had to be something very special. Everyone spent their energy trying to bring in the most effective now moment that they could carry in their lives. Today we find Amor doing what you would call intake. When people came to the temples, there were certain things that they needed to know about it. Even though most of them had been there many times, they had to be reminded of some of the things to watch for. When they stepped into this true fifth-dimensional space, whatever they held in their heart and head manifested very quickly in their lives. Amor was one of the people who would sit down with them beforehand to remind them, "Please, if you have anything of fear, do not take it into this very special place, because just like anything else, you can create fear in this magical space." The entire temples were lined with these beautiful crystals that reflected energy. The crystals took your heart and your head energy, mixed it together, and reflected it back to you. And that is part of what helped to reset the physical body, so it could raise to another level. At the same time, they also reset the emotional body, which is much more difficult to deal with, because everyone had a different aspect of it they worked with in different ways. Basically, this process cleared the remains of the old ways. Many times, people hang on to their old ways, and Amor's job was to remind them that they were walking into this place of perfect reflection. So they must be careful which thoughts and feelings they took into this space. It was critically important. Amor would work with them, and he found himself doing quite a bit of this. Sometimes, when he would start his talk, people would see who he truly was. He had worked with transparency over many lifetimes, developing the transparency of a very important teacher and a healer. That is simply where you allow people to see who you are, for you have full control over your metamorphic shell. Because of that, people could see his motivations. They could see his heart, and it allowed people to trust him very quickly. Now he also found that sometimes he would take a lot longer to intake somebody than many of his peers doing a similar job. Amor was both worried and curious about that, so he asked what you would call his boss or his superior for guidance. Well, in those days they did not actually consider it to be superior in any way. There were some people in charge of scheduling and aligning jobs. Amor asked them if he was doing something wrong, because it took him so much more time to bring these people in than it did his peers. They laughed and said, "Amor, you do not understand. People are reflecting against you because they trust you. That is something that must be earned over many lifetimes, so we highly encourage you to use it. You have to be careful because otherwise people will put their lives in your hands. That is not appropriate, because without realizing it, they will want you to take their power. That is one of the customs of Mu that goes against all else. Do not take someone else's power, even if they offer it freely. It is important that each person hold their own power firmly within themselves at all times. If they wish to reflect against you and get ideas or energies, you must be careful, dear one, because people will fall in love with you. It is very simple. They see your heart as wide open, and because of that, they will end up leaning against you, which causes a problem." So, Amor took that energy and he stopped worrying about how many people he could process or talk to in a day. He started communicating with people and allowing them to see him. Sometimes he would even share his own experiences, and people loved it. They would get the most out of their session at the Rejuvenation Temple many times over, because of the preparation that Amor gave them. He shared the ideas of being able to open their hearts and not walking in with any negative energies, setting them aside for the time being. Amor was a great person for being able to set this up so beautifully. Walking in expecting a miracle gave people the freedom so that they could heal themselves. Amor kept that in mind. Often they would reach across the table, take his hand and say, "Amor, just tell me what to do here. I am so perplexed. I am so confused. I have this problem." He would sit back and say, "Well, you have brought the problem on for a reason. There is something you are going to gain from this in some way. So take your time. Find what it is and allow that energy to reflect back from you through the rejuvenation temples. Amor quickly learned to keep his distance comfortably. He could be of the highest use to the universe by being of energy and working with his words to help other people to heal themselves. He turned out to be quite good at this, so much so that those who worked above him started sending people Amor's sessions. They wanted him to use his gifts to train other people and help show them how to prepare them for receiving the highest possible experience. Trainees would often sit in on Amor's sessions with people, and they were able to learn a great deal from him. Once there was a gentleman by the name of EM who was a little bit older than Amor. You see, when you have very long lifespans like we did in the days of Lemuria, you do not worry that much about one being older than the other. In your short lifespans here on planet Earth, the oldest is always expected to know more to a certain degree, especially when you are children. One day, EM was sitting in on Amor's session when a young lady came in and looked adoringly at Amor as he started working with her. Amor told her how to release her daily thoughts and clear her energy to achieve the highest potential of the reflection of all the crystals in the Grand Temple of Rejuvenation. He worked with her very clearly and did quite well, for he was a very magical person. Yes, EM was very impressed and asked Amor, "How do you keep your distance? How do you hold people responsible like that?" Amor said, "EM, the most important part about this is simply to create the space for them to create their own miracles, because that is how a person holds their own power and heals. If I create the miracle for them, it doesn't work, because they will have to come back to me every 3 years. They will have to look me up again to help them get the same energy out of the rejuvenation temples. But if I can teach them how to release what they need to for reaching the highest potential, every time they come back, they will be bringing their own energy. They will be able to work with this on their own, and that is when I am truly successful." Young Amor was quite wise for his age. He understood how to follow the path, how to work with the customs of Mu, and especially how to work with empowerment. He had been given a wonderful word to bring back into his society by a dear friend of his who passed away. He was his transition team person. His name was Etu, and he was a grand linguist studying the earliest languages in the evolution of Mu. Upon his deathbed, Ishtu gave a wonderful word to Amor to try and bring back. Espavo. Simply translated, it means, "Thank you for taking your own power." It was a word that Amor tried to use whenever he greeted somebody. Whenever he said hello or goodbye, he said espavo, but sometimes people were confused by that. They would ask, "What does that mean? What did you just say to me? What was that supposed to be?" And Amor would take just that moment to work with them and help them understand, "You are here, I am here. We are separate from each other, but we are of the same heart and we can share much. But it is important that you hold your power to be the highest potential, and I will hold mine." That separation became lost with many who worked in Amor's job, although it stayed true for many. Most people could only work for 3 years at a time, then they would have to leave and never return to that job. This was because they would become what you call burnt out, which is very common when you take someone's power from them. Know that this is one of the beautiful things that Amor learned this very early in his life. He learned how to keep people in their own power while still empowering them the best that he could. This gives them the best and highest reflection of themselves, and the ability to release negative energy without judgment. Everyone carries both positive and negative energy, and Amor never judged that as good or bad. He simply told them they would achieve the highest potential if they could place it on the shelf for a while and work in a different area. That worked quite well, and Amor shared it with EM, who stayed with him for almost 2 months, working with him through that process until EM began his own work, helping to prepare people for the highest potential. And it was not long before EM started receiving feedback from people, generally day, weeks, or months after they left the temple. These people probably had one of the best rejuvenation periods that they could possibly have, and it was because of the words that EM shared with them. And EM actually became quite well known because he followed the course of Amor. Even though there was no competition to speak of in those days, that was simply not how things ran. One of the greatest joys that Amor could have was that he was able to plant seeds in someone who took those seeds even further than he did and created something magical. That is a level of empowerment, dear ones, that was prevalent in the days of Mu and is now starting to return to Earth even today. It was the greatest potential as a teacher if you could share something with someone who could take it further than you did. Yes, that is evolution and what Amor did during these days. Especially as he was going to sleep, Amor gave thanks. Whatever you focus on returns. He knew that secret, and he worked with it every night before he would lay down to enter his restful periods. He would give thanks for the wonderful things that happened during that day, or anything else that he could find that was beautiful that he could give thanks for. He was grateful that he could pass on something magical, and every time he would say espavo, he would remind himself of that experience. We leave you with those beautiful times as Amor gave thanks that day.